Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Kopijana Balaba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Yamunadiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamunadiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamunadiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Gopijana Vallabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Gopijana Vallabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Yasodanandana Brajadanaranjana Jaya Brajadanaranjana Yasodanandana Brajadanaranjana Jaya Brajadanaranjana Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvadakacharya Asadhara Sadushi Shiman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swamiraj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Slava Zarani Bhakta. Slava Shri Gurui Shri Gurangi. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute. Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tadamane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane. Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Satarna. Om Agana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Vitam Cha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 19. King Ayati achieves liberation. And we'll read the summary. The 19th chapter describes, do you have one in Slovenia? I guess, do they have 9th canto in Slovene? No. The 19th chapter describes how Maharaj Yati achieved liberation after he recounted the figurative story of the he-goat and she-goat. See if you can see where this analogy comes from. After many, many years of sexual relationships and enjoyment in the material world, King Yati finally became disgusted with such materialistic happiness. When satiated with material enjoyment, he devised a story of a he-goat and she-goat corresponding to his own life. He gives it away. And narrated the story before his beloved Devayani. The story is as follows. Once upon a time, while the goat was searching in a forest for different types of vegetables to eat, by chance he came to a well in which he saw a she-goat. He became attracted to the she-goat and somehow or another delivered her from the well, and thus they were united. One day thereafter, when the she-goat saw the he-goat enjoying sex with another she-goat, she became angry, abandoned the he-goat, and returned to her Brahmana owner, to whom she described her husband's behavior. The Brahmana became very angry and cursed the he-goat to lose his sexual power. Thereupon the he-goat begged the Brahmana's pardon and was given back the power for sex. Then the he-goat enjoyed sex with the she-goat for many years, but still he was not satisfied. If one is lusty and greedy, even the total stock of gold in the world cannot satisfy one's lusty desires. These desires are like a fire. One may pour clarified butter on a blazing fire, but one cannot expect the fire to be extinguished. To extinguish such a fire, one must adopt a different process. The Shastra therefore advises that by intelligence one renounce the life of enjoyment. Without great endeavor, those with a poor fund of knowledge cannot give up sense enjoyment, especially in relation to sex, because a beautiful woman bewilders even the most learned man. King Yayati, however, renounced worldly life and divided his property among his sons. He personally adopted the life of a mendicant or a sannyasi, giving up all attraction to material enjoyment, and engaged himself fully in devotional service to the Lord. Thus he attained perfection. Later, when his beloved wife Devayani was freed from her mistaken way of life, she also engaged herself in the devotional service of the Lord. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, "O Maharaj Parikshit, Yati was very much attached to a woman. In due course of time, however, when discussed with sex enjoyment and its bad effects, he renounced this way of life and narrated the following story to his beloved wife. Text 2. Shrinu Bhargavas Mum Gatam Madvida Charitam Bhuvi Dhira Yasya Nushochanti Vane Gramam Nivasinaha Shrinu Bhagavav Yamum Gatam Madhva Vidat Charitam Bhuvi Dhira Yasya Nushochanti Vane Grama Nivasinaha. Gatam Madvaida Charitam Bhuvi Dhiraya Syanu Shochanti Vane Gramam Nivashinaha Shinu Bhagavam Smun Gatam Madvida Charitam Bhuvi Dhira Yasyanu Shochanti Vane Gramam Nivasanaha. Ladies, Shinu Bhagavam Gatam Madvada Charitam Bhuvi Dhira Yasyanu Shochanti Vane Gramam Nivasinaha. Shrinu, please hear. Bhargavi, O daughter of Shukracharya. Amum, this. Gatam, history. Matvida, exactly resembling my behavior. Acharitam, behavior. Bhuvi, within this world. Dhira, those who are sober and intelligent. Yasya, of whom. Anushochanti, lament very much. Vane, in the forest. Gramam nivasinaha, very much attached to materialistic enjoyment. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My dearly beloved wife, daughter of Shukracharya, in this world there was someone exactly like me. Please listen as I narrate the history of his life. By hearing about the life of such a householder, those who are retired from householder life always lament. Purport. Persons who live in the village or town are called Grama Nivasi, and those who live in the forest are called Vanavasi, or vanaprastha. The vanaprasthas who have retired from family life generally lament about their past family life because it engaged them in trying to fulfill lusty desires. Prahlad Maharaj said that one should retire from family life as soon as possible. And he described family life as the darkest well. Hedvatma patam griham andakupam. If one continuously or permanently concentrates on living with his family, he should be understood to be killing himself. In the Vedic civilization, therefore, it is recommended that one retire from family life at the end of his 50th year and go to the forest, or the vana, or the forest. Tivoli Park would be closest you can go. You know Tivoli Park? Yeah, that's the forest. So, in case you need a forest to go to. There's one a couple of blocks from here. Then he becomes expert or accustomed forest life, or retired life is the vanaprastha. He should accept sannyas. Vanam gato yad dharim ashriyeta. Sannyas means accepting unalloyed engagement in the service of the Lord. Vedic civilization therefore recommends 4 different stages of life: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. One should be very much ashamed of remaining a householder and not promoting himself to the 2 higher stages, namely vanaprastha and sannyas. My dear beloved wife, daughter of Sukracharya, in this world there was someone exactly like me. Please listen as I narrate the history of his life. By hearing about life as such a householder, those who are retired from householder life always lament. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Patskyatyate Satarane. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions Abhayam Sattva Samsudhira Jnana Yoga Vyavastiti Dana Damas Jagnascha Swadhyaya Tapa Arjavam. Now Krishna explains the 4 ashrams, beginning with sannyas, having 3 qualities, namely abhayam, fearlessness. When one is actually on the sannyas platform and realizes that one is the eternal soul, then there's nothing to fear. And sattva samsudhira. Then one is in love with Krishna and always ecstatic. Then one is considered to be pure in consciousness. And jnana yoga vyavastiti. When one sees everyone and everything as Krishna's eternal parts and parcels, of the same quality as Krishna, then one is said to be in knowledge. Now, generally when we think of as sannyas, there are 2 different types of sannyas. There's the dhira, and then there's narottama. Dhira means out of frustration, one renounces household life and goes to the forest, like Dhritarashtra, trying to live a life of austerity. That generally is not very attractive, a life of renunciation based on frustration. I mean, even when we're not renounced, at least we have the quality of being frustrated. You just have to add a little renunciation to your frustration, and then you become a dhira. But the aim of life is not to become a dhira, although it's a step in the right direction, because at least one will give up voluntarily unnecessary sense gratification, realizing that, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yehi samsparshya boga dukkha yone evate adyantavante kontiya nate shuramate buddha. That an intelligent person doesn't take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the senses, with their objects. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise person doesn't delight in them. Now that's in between, that verse doesn't stand alone. In other words, Although it's true in itself that material pleasures have a beginning and an end, but that doesn't discourage an ordinary conditioned soul from trying to enjoy material happiness. I mean, anyone, even a little baby, knows pleasures have a beginning and an end. It's not a great revelation. But Krishna had said in the previous verse, we can go back verse after verse, because Bhagavad Gita was not divided into different chapters. Krishna didn't say, my dear Arjuna, now I'm going to give you the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. Dhritarashtra Vacha, no. Now we go to the summary of what I'm going to tell you. Tam tatav kripyavishtam ashupurna kalekna. Now we're going to the third chapter, Karma Yoga. Now the fourth chapter, Transcendental Knowledge. Can you remember the third chapter, its name? Karma Yoga. That's right. Let's go into the next chapter. No, it's a continuous flow of development of philosophy in Krishna consciousness, towards Krishna consciousness. Going from Karma Yoga to Jnana Yoga to Astanga Yoga and to the bhakti-yoga. So, Krishna has said that abhayam sattva samshuddhya, there are three different qualities of a sannyasi, but sannyas has to be developed. In other words, how is it developed? Why is it sannyas desirable? Because and the verse before that, bayas parsheva saktatma vindat yatmini yat sukham sabrahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Bayas parshe. One is not attracted to material sense objects or material enjoyment because one is enjoying the pleasure from within. In this way, the self-realized soul enjoys unlimited happiness because he concentrates on the Supreme. Now, for an ordinary conditioned soul, such happiness is more or less a theory. It's maybe a goal, we'd like to experience it, but we don't really know exactly what they're talking about. Such happiness that material happiness becomes tuchavat, insignificant. But that's the whole process. That's why we're developing Krishna consciousness, is to experience some of that happiness. We're not doing it because we don't like ourselves, or we rejected the material world, and every time we think of something material, we just spit at the thought. Therefore, the whole temple room is just full of saliva everywhere. That's not why we're taking the devotional service. It's to become happy. It's to become blissful. Not for a few minutes, but all the time. That's what's being promised. So we have to be willing to make a little bit of sacrifice in order to achieve it. Therefore, Krishna is developing Krishna. He says he's promising such happiness that you'll enjoy and pleasure within, unlimited happiness. But then you have to go back and back and back through the verses to find out how that's achieved. It's not achieved just by reading the Bhagavad Gita and finding out such a happiness exists. So we have to start from the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita in order to understand how Krishna arrived in the 5th chapter, that particular verse. So even we go one verse back, Naprarishat priyam prapya, nodvijet prapya cha priyam, stira buddhira asamudo brahmavid brahmanistitaha. A person is not rejoices when he attains something pleasant. Aren't we all looking for something pleasant? Even if it's only prasadam. That's the highest pleasant. Or maybe a soft bed. A warm room. Something pleasant. Especially if you're cold and suddenly, it becomes warm in the room. You think, oh my God, I'm saved. I'm liberated. Naprarishat priyam prapi, no dvijat prapi. And when something is unpleasant, one doesn't lament, oh my God, it's getting cold in here. I'm going to die. No one doesn't lament, oh, how can this happen to a great personality like me? I'm such a nice person. So Krishna doesn't love me today. I must have done, No, one doesn't lament. One understands that this is how the material world works. No dvijat chapriyam remains undisturbed in spite of these ups and downs of material life, which are inevitable. Naprarishat priyam prapya, no dvijat prapya priyam, stira buddhir, who remains fixed in intelligence, who sees things in relationship to Krishna. He doesn't sometimes think, oh, maybe this had something to do with Krishna, but when things go bad, then we blame Krishna. That's usually how we think, oh, this is Krishna's fault. And when things go good, go well for us, then we think, yeah, of course, I deserve it. I'm such a nice devotee. Of course Krishna is sending me all blessings. But only a fraction of what I actually deserve. The Prarishat Priyam Prapya, Dvijat Chaprapriyam, Stira Buddha Asambuddha, whose mind remains equipoised. But that's not possible unless we get up to the next verse, when we're actually thinking about Krishna. And therefore, all the problems we go through are just impetuses, are meant to be impetuses to help us remember Krishna, that's all. To become aware that if we take shelter of Krishna, then we won't be disturbed by these things. That's why Queen Kunti prayed, let there be calamities again and again, because when there's calamities, we think of you, and by thinking of you, there'll be no more seeing repeated birth and death. So the calamities are not meant simply to put us into some unpleasant situation. They're only meant to serve as an impetus to help us remember Krishna. And if we remember Krishna, then in spite of the calamities, in spite of any problems we may have, then we won't be disturbed, because we'll be existing. Our experience will be on a different platform. It'll be on a platform of blissful life. And the materialistic experience will be seen like a dream. Brahmavid, but we have to know Brahman. We have to be on the Brahman platform of devotional service. The consciousness, when we're doing our service, of being Krishna's eternal servant, and therefore remembering Krishna. Brahmanistita, and being situated in that platform. Knowing Brahman, that I'm eternal, that Krishna is my dearmost friend, he's in my heart, guiding me as a super soul all the time, and I should take his guidance so I can attain Krishna consciousness. And then becoming fixed on that platform. And before that, Krishna says, Ihaivatera jita sargo yesham stam titam maganak nidosham hi samam brahma brahmane vid brahmani sitaha. That a person is equiminded. Ihaivatera jita sargo yesham samye samam stita. The Brahma Yoga Yuktatma Sukhamaksham Ashnute. I think I got that wrong. Brahmani Statita. Oh, I got it right the first. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They're flawless like Brahman, and they're already situated in Brahman. So what's the problem? Why are we not situated in Brahman? Why is our minds not flawless like Brahman? What is its equanimity? Doesn't matter if I put my hand on flowers or if I put them in a boiling water. I should be equal. Then I'm an equal. No, that's not the equanimity. We have to look back in the previous verse. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gavi Hastini Shuni Taiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshanaha. That the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with an equal vision the learned and gentle Brahman, the cow. I always get the order wrong. The learned and gentle Brahman, cow, that's right. An elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So this equanimity of mind is based upon the fact that we see everyone as Krishna's servant. Everyone is in a body, every soul is in a body, and everyone is equally Krishna's servant. And everyone has an equal opportunity to love Krishna and to live a happy, blissful life forever in service to Krishna. So that's the equanimity. Even the cow, the dog, the elephant, whatever, Krishna is in their heart too. He's in everyone's heart, including our heart. And we have an opportunity to serve Krishna in our heart and come to the blissful life of Krishna consciousness. That's the equanimity. And therefore we see that sometimes people are acting in ignorance, sometimes in passion, sometimes in goodness. But certainly goodness is better because then they can understand that they should be acting in Krishna consciousness. While in passion and ignorance, it's very hard to convince anyone about Krishna consciousness. But at least in goodness, there's some appreciation, some understanding that we should be acting in Krishna consciousness. So where does that come from? How did Krishna get that idea? How do we get equanimity? To see everyone equally. Wouldn't that be nice? You saw everyone and you loved everyone. The person who's your friend, the person who's your enemy, the person who's indifferent, the person who's impartial. Wouldn't that be nice if you were in love with everyone all the time? What would be the problem? So how do we come to that platform? Therefore Krishna said, tad buddhayas tad atmanas tad nishtas tad parayanaha gachatnya parana avritim jnana niduta kamasha. There are those who are tad buddhayas, those whose faith, actually starts with faith, I think. Those whose when one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, that one becomes fully cleansed of all misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of self-realization, of liberation. So how do we come to that? Devotional service. Surprise, surprise. And what is devotional service? Devotional service means to use our intelligence, first of all, to see things in Krishna consciousness. We may think, oh, this is all dry philosophy. I don't have the mind to see things. No, this is reality. I'm eternal. My only problem is, the reason why I'm not happy is because I don't believe I'm eternal. If I actually had faith in my eternality, then I would actually become relieved of so much misery and misgivings. Tad buddhas, tad atmanas, my soul. Here it says faith, mind. Because my mind is not thinking about Krishna, because it's thinking about many other things. Therefore, my mind is not satisfied. My intelligence is unclear. My mind is unsatisfied. Tad buddhas, tat nishta. My faith is very fragile. I don't really believe that Krishna is actually my best friend. I think something else is going on here other than Krishna trying to help me. Tad nishtas, tad parayanas. And I'm taking shelter of so many things outside of Krishna consciousness, hoping to satisfy my mind, to satisfy my sense of insecurity, my so many desires. Tad parayana. That Krishna will give me everything I need, not everything I have greed for. Krishna is willing to satisfy everyone's need, but he's not willing to satisfy everyone's greed. Tat parayana. Tad nishtas tat parayana. Gachantya pana avritim. So when one is actually determined and utilizes just these things, one's intelligence, one's mind, one's faith, one's refuge, and utilizes in Krishna's service, practices through devotional service to become Krishna conscious, then gradually one proceeds straight on the path of liberation. And what can we expect? We can expect to see everyone as our eternal object of service, that everyone is Krishna's eternal servant, and everyone is on a path. Oh, Krishna is trying to put everyone on a path to go back to him. And therefore there's nothing to lament for, there's nothing to hanker for, except we should lament that we're not Krishna conscious, and we should hanker to become Krishna conscious, that's all. We should learn those two things. Just like Devayani Samishta, here King Yayati. Yayati is lamenting. Oh, I could have spent my time to become Krishna conscious, but I wasted it. Lamenting. And then hankering, how can I become Krishna conscious? How can I utilize my intelligence? How can I utilize my mind? How can I utilize my faith? How can I take refuge in Krishna? So I can actually begin to see everyone. I can see Krishna, and I can see everyone as Krishna's dear servant. And try to serve Krishna by helping others revive their loving relations with Krishna. Just like here we have a picture of Mother Jasoda and Krishna. So we appreciate she's a servant of Krishna, and Krishna is so loving. So everyone has that opportunity. Everyone is either a dear servant of Krishna, or a friend of Krishna, or a parent of Krishna. Everyone is a dear, intimate lover of Krishna. Everyone has that potential, and therefore everyone is worthy of respect and worship. Appropriately. Appropriate service, appropriate worship. But we should see that if I can help someone become Krishna conscious, then I'm in my natural position again. That's all I do in the spiritual world, is try to make arrangements so others can love Krishna. And that's how I develop my taste and love for Krishna. And that's not the only verse. That was just 17. We can go back to 16 and trace it back as Jnanena tutad agyanam yesham nashitam atmanaha tesham adityavaj jnanam prakashiti tatparam. One, however, was enlightened by the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, just like the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Same philosophy that Krishna keeps on repeating. Hear about Krishna. Hear about our relation with Krishna. Try to appreciate it, at least, and then try to apply it, as described in the next verse. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to explain about who Krishna is, who we are, how to obtain Krishna, and here how to use our intelligence. Next verse, how to use Krishna is there for us if we want him. How to utilize our intelligence, how to utilize our mind, how to utilize our refuge, how to utilize our faith, engage him in Krishna's service, so all the wonderful things will happen. So we can see everyone equally. So we can become equally minded in all different circumstances and not become disturbed by our material existence. And how we can ultimately think of Krishna within our heart, actually expand our consciousness so that just like we're watching a movie, we can actually see experience Krishna's pastimes in our heart with our transcendental senses and enjoy unlimited happiness. And therefore seeing material life is insignificant, material happiness is insignificant. And it goes on. But anyhow, Bhagavad Gita is a very nice book if we read it. There's so much to discover there. At least to dive deeply into Bhagavad Gita means that we can actually become convinced of the simplicity of what we're doing, become convinced about what we're doing already, and appreciate that what a great opportunity we have here. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes. Okay. Translation.
Yeah, please.
If a person that doesn't control his or her senses can develop love for Krishna.
No, develop love for the senses. No, that's not possible.
Не можно.
Love means service. So it's like if you were married and you had a husband, and you asked the husband to take the garbage out. But the husband said, I'm too much in love with you, I can't do it. I'm stunned by my love for you. You say to the husband, can you pay the water bill or the rent? I can't, because I'm too much in love with you. No, you'd expect love would be manifested by service. So controlled senses means engaging our senses in Krishna's service. So we want to show our love for Krishna so he can reciprocate with us. Then, and actually when Krishna reciprocates, that's when our love actually is experienced more and more. Then it requires that we engage our senses in his service. We're in the material world and the senses are engaged in something other than Krishna's service, and that's why we're not conscious of Krishna, because Krishna doesn't reveal himself. Because we've made this body and things in relationship to our bodies as our objects of service and love. Therefore, but when we utilize the same body in Krishna's service and mind, intelligence, etc., then that's showing our love for Krishna, and then Krishna reciprocates and reveals himself, and then we become aware of our actual object of love. That's understandable? Resumes? Okay, Govinda Priya once.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for your class. I was thinking, intellectually we can understand we have to have faith in Krishna, or we have a sort of faith in Krishna, but it seems that it's not totally, and also Krishna says that we have to develop buddhi, intelligence, and to act with intelligence. So when we are not totally surrendered, or we are not taking some decisions which maybe we should take and act accordingly, it's that because we don't have enough faith in Krishna, or?
Well, is that the end of the question?
Yeah, I was only wanted to mention about the example from yesterday about that devotee which was afraid to go out to Sankirtan, and when he went, actually, it was like he didn't have faith in Krishna, or it happened to him, when finally he took this
I'm sure he
decision.
developed faith in Krishna. At least he learned, if you develop a strong enough desire, you'll get what you desire. That's pretty. Otherwise, people think things are happening by accident. But when you see, I've been developing this conception, and Krishna reciprocates according to what I expect. In any case, developing faith, as Krishna, there's an order. As Krishna says, tad buddhiyas, tad atmanas, tad nishtas, tad parayana. First thing is we have to develop our intelligence by hearing. And then when our intelligence understands things properly, then we can put our mind into what we're doing, and our senses into service. And when we put our mind and senses into service, then Krishna says, Tesham sadatam yuktanam bhajantam pritipurvakam. So when we hear, and then we apply what we've heard in trying to do something steadily for Krishna with some enthusiasm, then he gives us intelligence. So then right away our faith is increased, because now we see things in a different way than we saw things before. Things become more simple and clearer, obvious. And then we realize that if I follow this process, then gradually Krishna will give me more and more intelligence, and then I'll develop this feeling of surrender to Krishna, parayanaha. When as my faith develops, as my experience develops, then I feel dependent upon Krishna. And then Krishna says, Te shameva nukam paratam ahama gyana jam tamaha. Nashamyatmavavashto gyana dipena bhashvata. Out of compassion for them, I dwell in their heart, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge of the darkness born of ignorance. So when we actually feel humble and dependent upon Krishna, then Krishna reveals himself personally to us, and our hearts become purified, and we actually feel Krishna's presence, and we develop love for Krishna. Ecstatic love, full of pleasure, and therefore we feel completely dependent upon Krishna. We fall in love with Krishna. So it's a process. Beginning with hearing, and then try to capture something so we can apply it we can use our senses and mind in Krishna's service in some way. And then, even improving our service every day, even a little bit, will gradually get us back to faith and refuge in Krishna. So it's we just follow the process, understand what the process is, and then follow it, and then gradually make a little bit of progress every day.
And how we know that we are not still there?
How do we know if we're not still there?
Or how we know that this process should be how long or how short or?
We have no idea. First of all, we have no idea what time is. We're living in an imaginary conception of time. I mean, think about how long ago was it you were 1 year old, or maybe if you can remember 15. How long ago was it you were 15? Was it a long time ago, or is it just a moment? So our concept, Brahma lives to 311 trillion, 40 billion years, and one moment of his time is approximately 1,000 births and deaths that we go through. And he's experienced that as a moment. And we think we're living 100 years, it's a long time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I have a question. How
Can everyone hear what
can you hear me now?
a little bit?
How would the Lord reciprocate with us in different ways?
Well, when we take shelter of him, he gives us intelligence, so we can learn how to utilize our mind and senses and words in his service. And therefore, gradually he can, when we do that, then gradually he reveals himself to us. So we become inspired to hear more and do more service. And when we don't do that, then Krishna puts us into the mode of material nature that we desire to associate with, either goodness, passion, or ignorance, and gives us full opportunity to enjoy those modes of material nature. Is that right? Good. Anything else? Kuala Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.